You know what? I'm actually gonna put on my glasses. I was gonna not put my glasses on because I always have my glasses on, but I don't want to put contacts in. But hello everyone, SpinoZoo174 here, and today I'll be discussing the Fantasy Flight Games Star Wars role-playing games. We'll be solely discussing the tabletop game and not their other games like Star Wars X-Wing. Today will be the first episode of what I hope will be a long series, and perhaps one day soon I'll do a live stream of my group playing. Anyways, today I'll be discussing what the Fantasy Flight series is and what it's about. Fantasy Flight Games was founded in 1995 and based out in Roseville, Minnesota. In August 2011, they acquired the license for card, miniature, and role playing games set in the Star Wars universe. In November 2014, FFG had a merger with French board game publisher Asmodee Editions. I do hope and I apologize if I had that name wrong. Asmodee helped bring the FFG board games to digital form and formed Fantasy Flight Interactive to help bring the physical games to a digital setting. However, there were a company-wide layoff and Fantasy Flight Interactive was closed in January 2020. Asmodee announced they were moving forward on FFG's core games but are abandoning support for tabletop role-playing games like Star Wars. Tabletop materials still in development would be finished and supposedly published, but stocks of the materials would not be replenished. Well, I'm quite saddened that there is maybe no more Star Wars RPG coming out. I do highly recommend getting into what there is because it is some of the most fun I've ever had. And so there are 3 core rulebooks and a number of supplement materials, and the core rulebooks are Edge of the Empire, Age of Rebellion, and Force and Destiny. Edge of the Empire is very much being on the fringes of space and being underworld or normal characters, just kind of live in the Star Wars universe, and you're like Boba Fett or Han Solo. Age of Rebellion is joining the Rebel Alliance, and Force and Destiny is being a Force sensitive in the time of the Empire. Um, Sorry, I had to make sure it was still recording. I'm not gonna edit probably. I don't like editing that much. Actually, I do kind of like editing. It's kind of relaxing a little bit when I did it in college. These rule books all take place about 1 week after the destruction of the first Death Star. However, you are by no means having to have it set in that time. The system is very different from other RPGs like Dungeons and Dragons, as it has something called narrative play, which means the GM, the game master, is to use the imagination of the players and the GM himself to explain what is happening. This allows to focus on the characters and the story rather than measurements and statistics. The die in the system are also different. There are positive and negative die. And they don't have numbers, they all have symbols on them. The positive die are the blue boost die, the green ability die, and the yellow proficiency die. The negative die are the black setback die, the purple difficulty die, and the red challenge die. There's also the white force die. The boost die represents benefits through luck, chance, and advantageous actions. They are mainly used to help the player gain a benefit or advantage. Ability die represent the player's aptitude, yeah, that's the word, and skill when attempting a skill check. Proficiency die represent the combination of innate ability and training. These die have something called a triumph, which I'll explain later. And then moving on to the negative die, there's the setback die, which represents complications, problems, and minor obstacles during a task. They usually have something to do with environmental effects such as lighting. Difficulty die is the inherent challenge or complexity of the task that player is trying to do. And then finally, the challenge die represents most extreme adversary and opposition, and these die have the dreaded despair symbol. And these die each go up against each other. The D6 setback and boost die go up against each other. The D8 ability and difficulty die go up against each other. And the D12 proficiency and challenge die go up against each other. And then finally, there's the force die. And these are for players that are force sensitive. There's going to be little pips on them. The white pips are for light side and black pips for the dark side. And they are rolled at the beginning of the session for destiny points. And that's actually for all players. And I'll explain destiny points at another later. In another video. Another later. But the foresight is for force sensitives when they like to use a force power, but I'll explain that stuff later. And so positive die have three symbols: advantage, success, and triumph. And the negative die have three symbols: threat, failure, and despair. Advantages indicate a positive side effect to a task's success or failure, while the advantage gets cancelled out by threat. This symbol looks similar to the Jedi Order's insignia, and it's on all three of the positive die. Success is for determining whether a skill check succeeds or fails. Success is cancelled out by failure, and success kind of looks like a cartoon explosion, and it's also on all three of the positive die. Triumph is a significant boon or beneficial outcome and can trigger critical injuries in combat or other things. And a triumph is considered success, so it can be canceled out by a failure, but the positive effect from it is still there. And its symbols look similar to a star in a circle, and there's a line sticking out on top. And this symbol only appears on the proficiency die. Threat is for negative side effects regardless of the task's success or failure. The symbol looks like a circle with six trapezoids surrounding it, and it's canceled by advantage. It appears on all three of the negative die. The failure is for what the check succeeds or fails. It looks like a concaved upside down triangle. Uh, yeah, I know these aren't very good explanations, but it's the best I could think of. Multiple failure does not influence the magnitude of the failure, much like multiple success does not influence the magnitude of the success, unless it's referring to. Uh, well, I'll explain that later. This is just for the skill checks itself, really, and it appears on all three negative die. And then finally, the despair is the same as a triumph, but uh, the opposite effects as a triumph. It also counts as one failure, and it appears to look like an upside down triangle in a circle, and this only appears in the challenge die. Um, so that's what I have for you guys today. This is just kind of a simplistic view of the game and its rules to provide um, helpful tips for any new players and people who kind of are still learning the game. And I do recommend to get the rule books to understand the rules better. In this next video, I will probably do the character sheet and the skills and talents and how that works. So, yeah, thank you for dropping by and listening, and I will see you in the next video. See ya.